one of the top players, Mahi Ohuna, who's one of the top prospects in the draft as well. So they lost two games out there. They lost to Arizona, and then they lost to Grand Canyon, who at the time was ranked, and they lost those games by a combined 3 runs. They also lost a game in the midweek to Boston College, 7-6, but Boston College at the time was ranked. The big shocker was that they got swept by Missouri. They came back and swept Texas A&M last week, and we think Texas A&M, despite their 1-5 record in the Southeastern Conference, is a pretty good baseball team because, well, they had to play LSU and they had to play Tennessee. So the 20-6 record, which is still good, I mean, it's still really good, is maybe not what the expectations were because last year they were making a run, allegedly, at the best record in college baseball history, which they came short of and then didn't even make it to Omaha because sometimes you can get caught on a certain weekend. And I think that's what happened to them at Missouri. I don't know why, whatever reason, I just think that they got caught up there. I still think that this is an outstanding baseball team. You look at the hitting stats, and LSU at 339 is number 1 in the Southeastern Conference. Tennessee at 294. This is about the worst stats you're going to see from them because everything else is pretty good. At 294 is 11th in the conference. LSU is 2nd in the league in slugging. Tennessee is 5th. LSU first in on-base percentage and runs scored. Tennessee, though, is ahead of LSU in total number of home runs, 51-48. Little bit, that's 3rd and 5th in the league, respectively. That's a little bit because Lindsey Nelson Stadium up in Knoxville is a bandbox. It is a hitter's park in every sense of the word, and the ball just jumps out of that place, even in the earlier part of the season where the temperatures are a little bit down. Tennessee's ERA, 2.62, is number 1 in the conference. LSU at 3.13 is number 3. Now, you wouldn't know it to look at Dolander's stats, which are fewer than he had a year ago, and the ERA is up near 4. A lot of this came from a really rough outing at Missouri where he threw 5 2/3 innings, gave up 9 hits and 6 earned runs, and the most surprisingly was he only struck out 4 because he's 4th in the league in strikeouts. Chase Burns, 2nd in the league in strikeouts, has an ERA just north of 4, and Drew Beam, who is their 3rd starter, has the best ERA of the group at 2.54. But Tennessee has 8, count them, 8 pitchers that have at least 8 appearances and an ERA of under 2.5. So it's a very, very deep bullpen. They don't necessarily have that hammer closer, but they've got a lot of different arms that they can count on. So if you get the starters out, and the starters are really good, Chase Burns, who will throw in the game tomorrow, is going to be a very high pick in the draft as well next year. The bullpen is as good as it gets. Tigers number 1 in the league, 1 in the nation actually in fielding percentage, and Tennessee is number 4. So this, by the numbers, is a game that should be played pretty clean on paper. And I told you about the history that these teams have a little bit. 2 years ago, LSU went up in the Super Regional after having been there for a 3-game set in the regular season. LSU lost all 5 games. One of the games they blew a late lead, and things got pretty chippy up there. And there were some really ugly allegations of some things being, coming out of the stands towards Trey Morgan. Be that as it may, there are players on this team like Morgan and Dugas and, a number of others that remember those trips to Tennessee. Tony Vitello, the coach, very, very good, but not exactly – let's just say Will Rogers probably never met this guy, but he has won in his 6th season, 72% of his games in totality and 59% of his games in the Southeastern Conference. So like him or don't like him, and most people don't that are outside the Tennessee family, he has done an outstanding job there with that program, which Tennessee for years, Rod Delmonico was coach there forever. It seemed like about every 5th year, Tennessee would pop, and they'd have a really good team that would make a run at Omaha. But the other 4 years in the cycle, they would be down at the bottom of the conference. Vitello has put a consistency to what they do. And like I said, they play with a little bit of an edge. They play with an attitude. I suspect that the box will be at its very, very best tonight. Jay Johnson had this to say about Tony Vitello yesterday when he spoke to the media.
I respect him a lot relative to the recruiting. I mean, I think I said this last year before we played them. You could kind of see that coming, as far as the work that they were putting in. Josh Elander, his recruiting coordinator, does a terrific job as well. Frank Anderson's a great pitching coach. So, they're just like everybody else in the SEC. They have great players, and looking forward to the challenge.
Ahuna, in particular, was a player that LSU and Tennessee went head-to-head on. He was a transfer from Kansas. The coach at Kansas left the pro, retired after the end of the last year, and Ahuna was very, very highly sought after. He's right about Vitello in that, there's respect for him. There's not a lot of love, but there's plenty of respect. Chase Dollander, who LSU will see tonight, again, this is the top pitching matchup that you will see in the country this year. These will be the top two college pitchers off the board. They will be the top two, most likely the top two pitchers off the board, period. And they could very easily be the top two players off the board, depending on how the negotiations go with some of the players and some of the teams in the top 10. This was Johnson talking about Dollander yesterday.
Looking at Dollander, he's been incredibly consistent. And that's the hallmark of a good pitcher. Whether you have your best stuff or you don't have your best stuff, do you give your team a chance to win? He certainly does that. Like I said, 4 pitches for strikes, fastball, climb up there to 98. Sliders in the zone, changeup's in the zone, throws to both sides of the plate. So high-level pitchability, which makes him a great pitcher and a good prospect.
I'll say. Even with the numbers maybe not as eye-catching as they were a year ago, Dollander has got as good a stuff as anybody that LSU will see this year. And lo and behold, as we have been speaking here, the Major League Baseball season is off and running. Atlanta and Washington, San Francisco and New York Yankees have both started. How do you think if you're a Nationals fan today? Opening day. Everybody's in first place, right? Everybody's undefeated. We're going to go out there. We're going to throw our very best. And Washington is throwing Patrick Corbin, who had an ERA last year of 6.3. When your ace has an ERA of 6.3, you have a very, very rough baseball team, which is why Washington is one of the places that one of these guys could go. They got the number 2 pick in the draft behind Pittsburgh. You reckon Dollander and Skeens and Cruz after the game are going to meet up and go, okay, rock, paper, scissors, who's got to go to Pittsburgh and who's got to go to Washington and who's got to go to Detroit? Top 3 picks in the draft. Shay Dixon, when we come back, this is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Big Mike's in Denham Springs with hot ball crawfish every day at 11 o'clock. And now the price is at $5.99 a pound. Also, the 3-pound special includes free corn and potatoes with your 3-pound trays. So head out to Big Mike's, open 7 days a week with hot ball crawfish at 11 o'clock every day. Ball shrimp are more of your preference. Monday nights, all you can eat ball shrimp starting at 5 o'clock all the way until close. Big Mike's available for your private functions, multiple sizes with your party rooms, or if you prefer, Big Mike's will do catering off-site. Big Mike's with the Denham Springs Hall of Fame right in the front of the restaurant. You know they've kind of been a staple in Denham Springs for a long, long time. You've seen them on Bar Rescue. You've been out to enjoy games, enjoy a good meal. Big Mike's going to hook you up. Over 40 TVs in the bar and restaurant areas. So if you're heading out for any of the college basketball action this weekend, including LSU and Cowboy Kim at the Women's Final Four, head out to Big Mike's. On Aspen in Denham Springs, we're kind of a big deal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Football Tigers back on the practice field. We'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we're previewing Game 1. Tigers involved. Join us, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Annegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Standards, showing up on time, how to practice, nutrition, I mean, you name it. You know, it was a whole new way of doing things. And so there's a lot of time and effort spent on that. Now we can get into a lot more of the technical and tactical development. Today we were working on red zone, cover zero pressures. You know, we didn't get to that. I don't know that we even got to that in preseason camp. So today it was, you know, all-out blitzes and pressures and making sure that we were communicating effectively on the back end and stacks and things. Just a little bit more than nuances, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Brian Kelly, after today's practice, as LSU continues through spring ball, we bring in Shay Dixon from On 3. Shay, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, Charlie. How are you? Good afternoon.
I'm doing great. To the casual observer, I know there's a limited amount of time that you can watch practice, and I was not there this morning. But can you tell the difference between last year and this year?
Yes, when you only get to watch 20 minutes of practice from one sideline, by definition, you are the most casual of observers out there. Yeah, well, you can tell the difference in what that bite you just played, right? Like where he was last year, he was like, I don't even know these guys' names. I don't know if they're any good. I don't even know all these coaches yet. So you very much see a difference in that. And then, of course, that bleeds into how they practice. As he said, he's not having to go in there and teach them this drill and then this drill, and then we're going to do this. They all know what to do. And it's just about bringing the new guys along, these early enrollees or transfers, and that's a lot easier to do than the entire team, and certainly a lot easier to do than bringing on 10 new coaches. You know, right now it's just John Jancic is the only new coach on the staff, and he was a defensive analyst and out there for every practice since Kelly got here. So yeah, you can tell a difference. But again, they are so shorthanded in terms of guys who are out with injuries or recovering from postseason surgery or minor procedures or whatever it might be, that it's tough to get a good grip of really kind of where they're at, in the totality of the team.
Speaking of new guys, you mentioned the defensive line there for a second. Jamar Cain over the weekend took a job with the Denver Broncos, so they're light one coach. So I'll ask you how they're compensating for that, and any buzz you may have heard on people they may be thinking about bringing in.
Yeah, he said that actually, and Coach Kelly's post-practice presser, I had asked him about the search and criteria, and he went into pretty great detail on what he's looking for out of this. And I guess I would start with the timeline. He says they're pretty comfortable going through the rest of spring ball with Gerald Chapman as the D-line coach, who was obviously John Jancic now is coaching the jack linebackers, the stand-up edge rushers. But in terms of those interior guys, Chapman will be coaching them. He was Cain's right-hand man. He's been a D-line coach most recently here at Tulane in Colorado. So Kelly said these guys are more than experienced enough to get them through spring ball, and that allows him time to go through all of his options, different candidates. And look, we've heard names tossed around. Bo Davis is the name you're always going to hear tossed around, Charlie, of course, being an LSU alum and having coached at Alabama and having success at a couple different times, and now being at Texas. And his show cause has ended, so he could come back to the SEC, and next year he'll be brought back to the SEC if he's still on Texas' staff at that point. But then you hear guys like Jimmy Brumbaugh, and there's others who have LSU connections, but have really just been around the Southeast in recent years. I'll say this, and I'll quote Kelly here, at least kind of paraphrase some of what he said. But he talked about assembling a staff, and he said, if I'm going position by position, and we're in the SEC, and I have to factor in everything that comes with that, I'm hard-pressed to think this isn't the most important hire that I have to make, because D-line wins games, and to be competing with the best, you need elite D-linemen, and you need to develop them. And he said for him, 1A and 1B on kind of the wish list, or at least the guidelines of what he's going off of to do these interviews is, are you an ace recruiter? Do you have skins on the wall? Can I see them? Can I go back and look at battles you've won? And then B, who have you developed? What have your guys looked like? Did they go on to the NFL? Where were they, when they got to college compared to where they left? And he said also, being in the SEC, I think his quote was, I'll give him the direct quote, you can't be inexperienced and have never been in the SEC and know the recruiting of this landscape and be a qualified candidate. So basically, he had summed it up by saying, hey, look, I'm not telling y'all names, obviously, but I've narrowed down my list of potential candidates for you by these requirements. I want them to have SEC experience, both recruiting and developing talent.
A two-part question. Number one, have you heard that Bo Davis has a buyout, and is that any kind of a hurdle if that comes up? And secondly, does this position become like, because of Jancic's involvement with the pass rushers, more of a de facto defensive tackles coach?
In a way, I guess I'll say the second first. In a way, right? I mean, because you are coaching interior linemen. Now there's defensive ends in that group, the Ali Gaze and guys like that, Savion Jones now. So you are coaching in this three different kind of groups of guys who fit into whether it's a nose or a DT or an end. So a little bit more than just kind of a D-tackle look. There's some variety there, and a good bit to handle. I think that's probably why Kelly said, let's split up the room, because before Cain was in charge of those three guys and in charge of the stand-up edge rushers and jack linebacker group, and now Jancic's taken on that, and he's overseeing special teams. I'm not too privy to what Bo Davis's contract looks like, and my answer there would be, I bet many of schools have tried to come after Bo Davis since he came back from the NFL and went to Texas and joined up with Sarkisian. And I also know Texas has got money. They'll pay their coaches. If they want to keep him, they'll pay him. So I think when you talk about Bo Davis or a guy of that magnitude at a school like that, it has to come with the understanding that, yeah, LSU pays their position coaches and coordinators a whole lot of money, but so do a few other schools, and Texas would be one of them. So for me, like, Bo Davis isn't ever going to go leave to be a D-line coach at another school outside of Texas if he doesn't have some connections there, and he played at LSU. He's coached with Saban more times than you can count on one hand, and there's I can only pick you a few schools that I would say, okay, he could probably leave that position for this one and take. It would be considered a lateral move, but there would be more reasons for it, and that would be kind of a connection I would say that Davis has, given that he played here.
Shea Dixon is our guest. Shea, how have they navigated the slight numbers on the offensive line so far through spring?
Well, I'm sure Kelly's glad he came from Notre Dame. A lot of prayer, a lot of deep thought on how do you get through with just 6 or 7 scholarship guys, because that's the spot they're in. I think they have 7 or 8 scholarship guys on roster right now. And then the 4 signees, all 4 high school signees, which includes a 5-star in Zaylon's Hurd. None of them were early enrollees. So you're having to just work with your preferred walk-ons and then everybody you got back. And remember, they took a transfer. Maryland's Mason Lunsford, but he wants to graduate from Maryland. So he's still there all spring and won't get here until the summer. Then Charles Turner's been injured. He's been your starting center. So it's been tough for him. Brian Kelly said that's a large part of why they're having to do a lot of situational stuff. They probably aren't having some big spring game like they would normally do. And the reality is a lot of guys are just having to shuffle positions and move walk-ons in there to give guys a breather and just hope nobody gets hurt. The good news was, for the first time, I believe, Miles Frazier, who started at left guard all last year, was back at practice. So they don't have a lot of guys, but at least they're starting to get them all back on the field.
Let me jump to yesterday at Pro Day, and this was not one of the more heralded, pro days like when everybody went out to watch Jarvis Landry, but still pretty well attended. So 2 things jumped out. Well, 3 things really. Number one, Jared Bernard-Converse, who did not run at the combine, was not at the combine at all, ran a 4.4 yesterday and measured in at just under 6'1". The second thing is that Anthony Bradford came in 5 pounds heavier than he did at the combine just about a month ago, and I'm not sure that's a great thing. And the other one, maybe the most eye-catching thing, was that Kayshon Boutte did not run yesterday, and after a pretty subpar 4.5 and change at the combine, I thought that, like Landry, when Landry ran, he had a little bit of a groin injury, came back and blitzed the clock at Pro Day. I thought maybe Boutte would be lined up for something like that, but he did not even run yesterday. So your thoughts about some of the things that happened at Pro Day yesterday?
Yeah, I'll start with Converse. He didn't get invited to the combine, so he had to hinge everything on Pro Day, which was a surprise. I mean, this was a multi-year starter in the Big 12, an all-Big 12 player. Comes to LSU, was a starter, named captain for a number of games. Like he's the kind of guy you thought would get invited to the combine, but he didn't. Well, he turns around, and as you noted, a 4.40. And I'll give you here quick numbers, how they would have ranked amongst the corners of the combine. The 40 would have been 6. His 42-inch vertical would have been first, tied for first. 4.28 shuttle, which is very good, would have been tied for third. 16 reps at 225 would have been tied for third. And a 3-cone of 7 seconds, which would have been tied for fourth. And I know people don't get into the nuances of the measurements and all that, but he's got 32-plus inch arms, 9-plus inch, almost 10-inch hands, an 80-inch wingspan. That's really, really good measurables. And then he put down really good numbers in terms of testing, and you've got tons of film from Oklahoma State to in the SEC, Charlie. They played him at corner. They played him at safety. Like, I think he's a guy that went from back into the draft to pushing himself, into the middle rounds, and that's exactly what you want out of a pro day. So stock up for him. Bradford, I noticed that when I was going through everything. I was like, he showed up about 5 pounds heavier, and then I looked over, and he didn't do anything. And then I said, Shea, remember, he went to the combine and did really well and tested really well and did well in position drills, and he didn't do anything at pro day. He just said, I'm resting on these numbers. I'm good, which is perfectly fine. And then I said, okay, not a big deal. 5 pounds, because he had already lost like 20-something to get to the combine. Had he showed back up at, 20 pounds heavier again, I would have said, okay, come on now. But I think 5 pounds for him is, I'm eating this week and, today, because I know I ain't running, and I'm not doing any 40s or verticals. So I'm good. And he's a heavier guy by nature, so I don't look too much into that. Boy, on Boutte, I don't have the answer, because I would say Manny must still be hurt, but then he did go through all the position or, on field drills and worked out, and he looked good doing them. And the only combine thing he did, so he leaves a 4.5 alone, which isn't a good time at all for a receiver, really. Certainly not someone like him where you've seen what he can do before. And he had, among every receiver at the combine, the shortest, the lowest, the worst vertical, the second worst, I believe it was, broad, and then he only did 3 cone drill. And when I went and looked at his number at the 3 cone drill at Pro Day, I went and stacked it up against what everybody did at the combine. It would have been second worst. Like, there's no explosiveness. And I've seen Kayshon Boutte in high school. Like, he was a 5-star for a reason. He was an elite track athlete, too. I saw him freshman year. I saw him those first 6 games before Kentucky when he injured his ankle, and he was leading the nation in touchdown catches and leading the SEC in yards. Charlie, I'm convinced he's just not the same after that. And people can say it's an attitude thing or any of that. Like, I'm sure maybe that plays into it when you're not what you used to be, but he had multiple surgeries, and I think that's got to be the thing. Like, these numbers being the lowest across the board at every metric in testing of receivers don't match what we've seen from Kayshon Boutte. And look, NFL teams will say, the film's so good, I like his film. Hey, we're going to take a hard look at it. He's not going undrafted. He's not falling deep into the 5th, 6th, 7th round. I don't believe any of that. But this was someone we thought was a bona fide first rounder, and I think the injuries just derailed that.
Yeah, I don't think he's 5, 6, 7 either, but I will tell you, if pressed for a prediction right now, I think he's more likely to go on day 3 than day 2. And I would have never thought that a year ago at this time. On Bernard Converse, I was surprised he wasn't invited to Combine either. I will say that 29 corners were at the Combine, and this is thought to be one of the deepest corner and tight end, one of the deepest corner drafts in a long time, and as many as 25 of those guys had what people would consider draftable grades. So it's a deep, deep class. I think Bernard Converse helped himself yesterday for sure, but it's a crowded field at corner. Shay, what's coming up on 3?
Yeah, we are going to continue really big recruiting weekend coming up, and they just had a bunch of guys on campus this past weekend, but they've got a lot of top targets on campus this weekend. We've got some guys on commit watch that they could continue to add to this 2024 class. So a little bit of spring ball, but I'm about to get heavy into recruiting. I feel like this is going to be a pretty big weekend for them.
Shay, we always appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, Charlie. Have a good one.
Shay Dixon from On 3. We'll take a break. Doug Thompson from the LSU Sports Network. When we come back, LSU and Tennessee tonight at the Box. It's Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Infinity of Baton Rouge. Right now, they want to buy your vehicles right off the street. It'll take less than 15 minutes for you to get a quote on what your vehicle is valued at right now. At that point, if you're just confident with that information, that's okay. If you'd like to trade it in on another vehicle, you can do that, or you can sell it outright. All the choice is yours at Infinity of Baton Rouge. You get into the certified pre-owned issue program, and these vehicles have been through such a rigorous inspection that Infinity of Baton Rouge is going to back it up with a powertrain warranty up to 100,000 miles and 6 years. You're going to get roadside assistance. You're going to get your first year of maintenance prepaid, and you're going to get a complimentary car while your vehicle is being serviced. Transparency and pricing, a very smooth and easy, very relaxed buying environment, very easy process for you to go through. We did it ourselves just a few weeks ago. All part of the service at Accurate Infinity of Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TD to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
Jimmy out, Charles, Handegriff, and Max. We're live from the original walk-ons on Burbank, getting ready for the top 10 matchup, LSU and Tennessee at the box. It's game time, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Handegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we will be at walk-ons tonight for game time, for a walkover for LSU and Tennessee. On the call, the LSU Sports Radio Network, Doug Thompson. Doug, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, Charlie. How are you today, man?
Fantastic. Doug, we got a pitching matchup tonight that's as good maybe as we've ever seen at the new box, or the box period. I'm trying to remember a matchup of two pitchers rated as highly in the upcoming draft. And, you know, maybe Aaron Nola and John Gray back in the 13 Super Regional is about the best I can come up with. This rivals that. You pitched in a number of big games yourself. So what's it like for a pitcher when you know that guy's on the other side on the bump tonight?
Well, I mean, it's going to bring out the best in both of them. I think that's what we all hope for as fans. And, for LSU, I think that means that we come away with a victory, because if Paul Skeens is at his best, I don't care who's pitching. I really just don't see anybody beating him. But you nailed it. I mean, is it the best ever at the box? Is it the best ever that we've seen? Heck, is it one of the best ever in college baseball history? I think you can check all the boxes there for one of the, if not the best, potential matchup. I'm as a guy that played in the late 90s who, obviously understands what we talk about when we talk about the energy and electricity and enthusiasm that was around the program in those years. I'm starting to see that again. You're starting to hear, the Tommy chants, which remind me, of course, of the Eddie chants and all of the things that used to be the tailgates and people getting excited about all that type of stuff. And I just can't wait. I can't wait for about 4 o'clock to get here so I can get out to the box and enjoy it all, because it's gonna be pretty reminiscent, I think, Charlie.
Doug, when you watch Skeens, look, we know he throws hard. But there's a lot of guys that throw hard. it's got to be way more than that. So when you watch him play, what impresses you about his makeup?
Well, it's his command, and that's what separates him when you talk about his velocity. You're right. A lot of guys, especially today, seem to throw harder. Maybe the guns are better, and people have always thrown hard. But look, he's got 7 walks. 3 of those happened in 1 inning when he was rattled on a top spin double down the line and a wild pitch. And he came back, by the way, out of that inning to pitch out of a bases loaded jam with strikeouts. So he is everything that you want in a Friday night starter. He's right there with in terms of being dominant with Big Ben. I mean, probably arguably 2 of the guys that were, if not major league ready, pretty dang close to ready for the major leagues. Ben didn't spend much time in the minor leagues. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, one of those type games. And for Skeens, he's just, look, his fastball, that 4-seamer gets, all the headlines. But personally, I think, and I think I told you this last time, his sinker, which is 94 to 97 miles an hour, sinker's a 2-seam fastball that from a right-hander runs in on the hands of a right-handed hitter. And to me, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem at this level and next level for hitters. And then he's got a wipeout slider that literally starts on the right-hander's hip and breaks to the outside corner outside of the zone. He's able to throw that for a strike early in the count, which almost makes it impossible to hit the rest of the at-bat. And then he bounces it. He buries it when he needs to. When he's 0-2 or 1-2 with his fastball, you'll notice he rarely misses on the plate. When he misses, it's a ball off or 2, which is, again, a sign of just extraordinary command. And then I haven't even mentioned his changeup, which is excellent. It's very, very good, even though it's harder than my best fastball used to be back in the day.
Well, yeah, but could he throw that curveball? I mean, come on, Doug. I mean, give yourself some credit here, man. The hammer was your pitch. You could get out of a jam or 2 with that. I want to. I did a podcast yesterday about where Skeens and Cruz are in the all-time annals of the program. Not my opinion so much as where they are tracking towards some of LSU's most hallowed records. And since you brought up Ben McDonald, I'll bring you one of the stats that we brought up yesterday, which is the strikeouts in one season. McDonald holds and has held since 1989 the single-season strikeout record at LSU with 202. Skeens is averaging just under 12 strikeouts a game, which means that he would, if he stays on this pace, break Ben's record if they got into a super regional. Okay, that would be 17 starts. He's also got a shot to break Aaron Nola's ERA record of any pitcher over 100 innings pitched. Nola had an ERA of 147 back in 2014, and of course his ERA right now is about half of that. We got a lot of season to go. What kind of chance do you give Skeens to break either one of those records?
A good chance. He's just under 12. I thought he was okay. Maybe I misread a text from Todd Polich. I thought he was much higher than 12 strikeouts right under 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's got
okay, not per 9 innings. I'm talking about per game. He's got 71 strikeouts in 6 games, so that's not a per 9 innings number. It's
I'll give you that because I think that this is what's interesting. Ben pitched 158 innings or so when he struck out 202, which, by the way, is also an SEC record, not just a school record.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those ones that you always look at, like nobody will ever touch that. I mean, at one point, I struck out 158 guys, and I was, ranked up there near Ben. But think about that. It's 50 more strikeouts the big guy had than even the best, next single season. And Nola, Lang, and I think Renato's up there, a lot of different pitchers over the time. But Ben has always still been significantly. In fact, I don't know that anybody's even gotten to 160 yet. Is that correct at LSU?
I'd have to look. If I had to get, Lang was second, and the all-time leader is Schultz with 409. But Schultz pitched forever. I don't think he had 100. I don't think he had 170 in over 160 in one season. But I have to go look.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 159, 158, 157 are the next 2 or 3, 4 guys. But again, there's been a good 40-something strikeouts ahead of even the next best. So Todd Police told me the other day, and again, I might have misinterpreted this, so if I get this wrong, forgive me, and all the listeners forgive me, but when Ben did that in 1989, he had 11.6 plus strikeouts per 9 innings, okay? Skeens right now, as of the sixth inning, in his last start, was at 17.32 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Yeah.
Okay? So obviously, if you do the math on that, and Skeens gets to 158 innings, which would mean they probably have to win the national championship, he's going to be around 270, 80 strikeouts. So that's the type of pace that he's on. I can't wait to see Todd tonight because I'm going to start asking him for, okay, where was Ray Franz at this time when he hit 431? Where was Big Ben strikeout wise after, how many innings does Skeens have now? 40-something innings.
71. No, I'm sorry, 71 strikeouts. 71 strikeouts.
Right, and then 40-something innings, right? Something like that?
42, I think it is. Tracking these records is a lot of fun. And I'm not one of these, this guy's on pace to do this after he, has one hot weekend or so. When we're talking about Cruz and Skeens, we're talking about some real heady stuff.
Another question would be, this is all stuff I plan to do today. What does Cruz have to hit this year to have a higher career batting average than Todd Walker? Because Todd Walker's career batting average is 393.
396. 396, and to get I have the answer to that. At least I have the answer to that if Cruz has the same amount of at-bats this year as he had the first 2 years. First year he had 249, second year he had 246. Now, they may go deeper, so it may be more at-bats. But if he has the same amount of at-bats as the last 2 years, he's got to hit 482 for the year to beat Walker's 396. He's at his lifetime average right now as of Tuesday night was 382. To get that to 396 over the course of the rest of the season, he's got to hit 482 for the year.
I would have said, Charlie, if we'd have talked last Friday and you'd have told me that, and he was hitting 515 going into the weekend, I'd have said, I don't know, that might be tough. But the guy's hitting 540-something after the Grambling game on Tuesday. You know how hard it is to raise your average 30 points when you're hitting 500 already? It's almost impossible. But anyway, so nothing would surprise me with him. But when you talk about the greatest players of all time, I think Cruz is going to be certainly mentioned in that list of just it's almost hard for me to say it. You know how much I love this program, and you know how much I personally love a lot of those guys, the Eddie Furnaces and Brad Cressys and so on. I mean, it just goes on and on. But Cruz is definitely worthy of being in that conversation as the best ever. Skeens, to me, although I think he's as dominant as they come and certainly one of the best ever, if not the best ever, to wear the purple and gold, he's more like a Brandon Larson conversation. Because if Brandon Larson would have had 3 years that matched or even came close to the 1 year he had here, then he would easily be known as the greatest LSU baseball player of all time. But he only had 1 year. So it's kind of like Skeens is in that same regard. Like, where do you rank Brandon Larson in terms of all-time greatest players when you're talking about other guys that did it for 3 or 4 years? It's really hard to do that. And it's going to be the same with Skeens. But I think what's going to be more interesting is to compare Ben McDonald's best season ever to Skeens' best season ever, and to watch that, because Ben McDonald's the best. And even if Skeens is 17-0 and strikes out 275 players and is the first pick in the draft, Ben McDonald will still always be the best at LSU. If you watch the documentaries, he's the guy that got it started. He's the guy that had the lines waiting out to River Road, and he deserves every bit of that respect. So in no way do I want to take anything away from Ben or anyone else that has towed the rubber. But I think that's the only way to really draw a comparison to just how good Paul Skeens is.
Got any thoughts on Tennessee, since there's a game tonight and we're just, going through a history here? What do you think of the Vols?
Other than I can't stand them. And by just a side note, when I played at LSU, my 2 years, we never lost to Tennessee. No, those two things aside, obviously they're going to be great. Charlie, I got some information earlier this week from Jamie Tutko over there. If Tennessee goes to one of their top 4 arms after Dolander, every one of them out of the bullpen are 96 to 100. Okay. If we go with Shores after Skeens, which again, I don't know if we will or not, but if that happens, there's a chance we will watch 9 innings of baseball and not see one fastball less than 96 miles an hour. And there's a good chance that the first 6 innings of baseball tonight, we don't see a 4-seam fastball less than 98 miles an hour. You're talking about like Major League All-Star game type velocity tonight at the box. So it's going to be one heck of a matchup, and I hope the Tigers are able to pull out all 3 this weekend because, oh, what a statement that would be.
Worth the price of admission. Doug, thanks for your time. We'll see you at the box tonight. Appreciate it, buddy.
Always good to hear from you, Charlie. Talk soon.
We'll take a break, come back, wrap things up here. Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Up on Friday's OTB, we will recap Game 1 of the epic LSU-Tennessee matchup. Who won the duel between Schemes and Dolander? Plus, it's Final Four day. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Joker is questionable for tonight's game between Denver and New Orleans. Fairly important game, Mario?
Yes. For what it's worth, I did see the line go down a little. It was Pelicans +7. Now it's Pelicans +5.5.
He's listed as questionable. Denver's locked in. They're not mathematically locked in, but realistically, they're locked in to the number 1 seed. Don't you think they ought to rest him?
Well, they have a back-to-back tomorrow, too, which is interesting. They play
with Phoenix, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, which game do you value more kind of thing? We'll find out.
Oh, they should value the Suns game more, right?
You would think. I don't know.
I'm not just,
Some Nuggets fans might say, oh, we want to play this team in the second round, brackets, that whole thing.
They're not getting that far down the line, are they? Last night wasn't great. More teams won than lost. I'm not even going to go through the list because there's like half a dozen, right?
Yeah.
But New Orleans and Denver, great night for local sports fans. You can watch LSU and Tennessee, and then the Pels and Nuggets later on tonight. But yes, New Orleans with the last game of the road trip. They come home for 4 in a row after this. 6 games left of the regular season. They are in 9th place as we speak. Thanks to everybody for participating. For Jacob and Mario, I'm Charles Hannegriff saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or nolaflooring.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies